Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jolynn Ibanez, and I am your worship associate today. I am joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister, Jacob Swetland, our Director of Music Ministries, and Karen Magoon-Pearson, our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth, in welcoming you this morning. Now, Avery, our sound tech, is not here today, so be patient, because the village is doing its darndest. Yay, and saying that, we also would like to recognize that the many volunteers that have helped put this service together today, including that village. We respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Ahachiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. And a covenant is a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones. For our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we will have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. We begin our worship with the lighting of our chalice. This morning, I'd like to put myself out there on the line in a moment of humiliation as in that I'm asking Melanie and her husband, whose name has just flown out of my head. There's a P in there somewhere. What? Prasan. Hi. I remembered it in the courtyard when I asked him. They have come to us from St. Goodness gracious, from St. John's UU in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they are signing our book today, and I hope they're feeling more welcome than. So you go ahead and take this, and let us all say together as they do this, let our worship begin with the lighting of our chalice. As we say, love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. Thank you, guys. Please join us in singing our opening song.
Let us rise in body or spirit and sing our opening song.
Celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing, a fragment of the perfect whole in right, so I'm going to explain who this guy here is. His name is Alfred North Whitehead. He is considered the father of process theology, which is what we're going to be talking about today. He started out as a math professor teaching at the University of London at the turn of about the 20th century. And then he joined the faculty at Harvard as a philosopher, as a professor of philosophy in the 1920s. Now, given that background, you can understand that he might be a little hard to understand. He says things like, "No reason can be given for the nature of God because that nature is the ground of rationality." Or God is the unlimited conceptual realization of the absolute wealth of potentiality. If your eyes are starting to get crossed and you're glazing over going, how can I get out of this sermon? Don't worry, I'm going to break it all down for you. All of what process theology is, how it influences liberal religions and even Unitarian Universalism. And also I had it last year, a number of people, I mentioned it in a service and people got kind of excited. We're like, tell us a little bit more about that. So this is me a year later doing that. So I'll begin with these words by Whitehead. It's one of his more coherent quotes. Forgive the gender pronouns. He is also a man of his times. He says this: "The power of God is the worship he inspires. The worship of God is not a rule of safety, it is an adventure of the Spirit." The worship of God is an adventure of the Spirit, a flight after the unattainable. The death of religion comes with the repression of the high hope of adventure. So let us explore and have some adventures this morning. There's your mantra for the week. Love will grow. All right. So our story for this morning, our Time for All Ages, is a wonderful story, one of my favorites, called The Everything Seed. And it's very much infused with process theology. By the way, everything you're going to hear this morning has something about process theology in it. So we're just priming you a little bit. Patrick, do you want to go ahead and start? There we go. Thank you.
The Everything Seed, A Story of Beginnings by Carol Martignaco, illustrated by Joy Troyer. Have you ever watched a seed grow? Have you ever noticed how it begins, so small, so still, so quiet, like a gift wanting to be opened? And how slowly it wakes up, begins to unfold, growing into something larger? Larger and larger? Then you know that whatever comes from a seed usually ends up looking very little like the seed it came from, which is also true of the very first seed. Once, long, long ago, way back before the beginning, so long ago there was no such thing as time, because there was no one there to count it. Everywhere was a huge, deep, mysterious place, like something waiting to happen. There were no stars, no sun or moon. There was no place like Earth, not a drop of water, or a single tree, or a rock, or flower, and no living beings anywhere. But in that deep, waiting space was hidden the tiniest point of something no bigger than a seed. It was not a flower seed. It was not an elm tree seed. It was not a seed of corn, although all of those things were included in the seed. You might call it an everything seed, because that is what it became. No one knows where that first seed came from, or how it was planted, or how it knew, in the way that only seeds seem to know, how long to wait for just the right moment to sprout and grow. But all at once, this tiny seed, cradled and nourished in the rich soil of space, woke up, broke open, and began to unfold, unfolding, unfolding, and blossoming forth into an enormous, blazing ball of bright light, like a great grandmother's sun. And the universe was born. Out fluttered the galaxies like a storm of snowflakes swirling and gathering into the brightest, most blindingly beautiful cloud of stars. And out of those star clouds whirled our very own star, the one we call the sun, and our Earth, and the moon, and all the round spinning planets we have learned how to name. And this is the secret of that tiny seed. You and I were there in the very beginning. Just as the idea for each leaf on a big oak tree lies hidden inside an acorn. We were there with all the stars and planets, all the rocks and oceans, plants and animals and people. Everything that is now, ever was, or ever will be was inside that first tiny seed. So whenever you hold a seed in your hand and wonder what it could become, imagine how you and all that is here once came from the tiniest speck of an everything seed before it sprouted and grew long, long ago in the way back beginning of time. Now, if this were an ordinary story, it would end right here. But this story of the universe keeps unfolding. What once began in a blazing blossom of light continues every day. New stars sprout open in the deep soil of space. New plants and animals appear on the earth. Seeds of many kinds are scattered everywhere. To help us remember. And new people are born every day with the spark of that first light still alive and burning deep inside, waiting. Like the everything seed, to shine in ways that are yet to be known. The end.
I'd like to invite Karen McGoo-Pearson, our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth, up here to light the children's chalice, and then we'll sing our children out to the religious kid classes. Hi, Jaden. Let's do it. So Jolyn and I have a skit for you that we're going to do. It was written after a conversation the author had with a friend talking about process theology. And while it incorporates many different theologies, it also incorporates Hinduism as well as maybe even some Mormon theologies. But also there's this process theology in it. And it, honestly, I think it's a really cool story and I've always wanted to tell it, so we're doing that today. It's called The Egg. All right. She was on her way home when she died. It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. She left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save her, but to no avail. And that's when she met me.
What happened? Where am I?
You died?
There was a truck. It was skidding.
Yep.
I died?
Yep, but don't feel bad about it. Everybody dies.
What is this place? There's just nothingness, just you and me. Are you God?
Yep, I'm God.
You don't look like God. I mean, you look more like a school marm or something like that. Oh wait, whoa, my kids, my wife, whoa.
What about them?
Oh, are they all right?
Well, that's what I like to see. You died and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. Don't worry, they'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will be secretly relieved. To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. And if it's any consolation, she's gonna feel guilty for feeling relieved.
Okay, so what happens now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something?
Well, neither. You're gonna be reincarnated.
Oh, so the Hindus are right.
All religions are right in their own way.
So what's the point then? When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter.
Oh, not so. You have within you all of the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. Your soul is more magnificent, more beautiful, more gigantic than you could ever imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into this vessel. When you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. And you've been a human for about 48 years now, and you haven't stretched out yet and felt all of your immense consciousness. And, if we hung out here for a little bit longer, you would start remembering everything. But there's no point in doing that between each life.
Well, how many times have I been reincarnated then?
Lots and lots. Lots of different lives, yeah. And this time around, you're gonna be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD.
Oh. So you're sending me back in time?
I guess technically, time as you know it only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from.
Where do you come from?
Oh sure, I come from somewhere else, and there are others like me, and I know you want to know what it's like there, but you're not ready for it. You wouldn't understand.
Well, wait. If I get reincarnated to other places in time, then I could have where am I? I could have interacted with myself at some point.
Sure, it happens all the time. And with both lives only aware of their own lifespan, you won't even know it's happening.
So what's the point of it all?
Seriously? Seriously, you're asking me the meaning of life?
Yeah, it's a reasonable question.
The meaning of life.
Yeah.
The reason I made this whole universe is for you to mature.
Oh, you mean all mankind? And that you want us to mature?
No, just you. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life, you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect.
Oh. Just me. What about everybody else?
There is no one else. In this universe, there's just you and me.
But all the people on Earth.
All you, different incarnations of you.
Wait, I'm everybody?
Now you're getting it.
I'm every human being who ever lived.
Or who will ever live. Yes.
I'm Abraham Lincoln.
And you're John Wilkes Booth, too.
I'm Hitler.
And the millions he killed.
I'm Jesus.
And you're everyone who followed him. Every time you victimize someone, you were victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human that ever was or will be is experienced by you.
Why? Why do this?
Because someday you'll be like me. Because that's what you are. You're one of my kind. You're my child.
You mean I'm a god?
No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. And once you've lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born.
So the whole universe is just...
An egg. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life. Off you go. So this story is a little fanciful, out there, and fun, and it gets you to think of things a little bit differently. You may or may not agree with any or all of it, but I want to invite you into a time of contemplation, of thinking about this story. And what is that part of this story that resonates with you? So I just want to invite you, if you want to take a few deep breaths, breathe out, soften your eyes. What is it in that story that resonated with you, if anything? So the whole universe is just an egg. Let us sing. So process theology. It's one of those things that we don't hear a lot about because it is kind of complex and kind of funky and a little bit different. But the funny thing is that it's starting to take over. It's kind of sneaky. It's everywhere and you don't even know it. It shows up in the way that sometimes that children think, just like this young artist that did this wonderful piece here, Anya Rosen. She said this when asked about it. She said, "My drawing represents the land that binds us and unites us. Humans are woven together. If someone gives up, others fall. We are all connected to our planet and to each other. But unfortunately, we're little aware of it. We are woven together. Other people weave alongside me and my story, and I weave theirs." That image is process theology. She's a philosopher and she didn't even know it. And process theology absolutely loves science, and in fact, it was started by scientists. So, as I mentioned, Alfred Whitehead was a mathematician and a philosopher. The other one who did it, his name is Hartshorne. He was actually Whitehead's aide in college, and he went on and he was actually an ornithologist. So you'll find that a lot of scientists say things that are very process theology. Brian Cox is the man who discovered the Higgs boson particle, and he said, "We are the cosmos made conscious, and life is the means in which the universe understands itself." Carl Sagan said, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Both of those are process theology statements. So as I mentioned, it shows up, there's no surprise that it shows up among these scientists, but it's also among wonderful people like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was influenced much by process theology when he said, "All life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all directly." And it's been sneaking, I've been noticing it's been sneaking into other churches, other denominations. You might have heard this in the United Church of Christ, which is, they're kind of like kissing cousins to us. We very liberal, open, loving people. They said, "God is still speaking." I like how they say, "Don't put a period where God put a comma." That was actually a comedian who said that and they borrowed it. That is, in other words, We're all evolving, and revelation is ongoing. The Methodists even, I know they're struggling right now, but they say open hearts, open minds, and open doors. This idea of having an open mind, that we're always growing and becoming. I like this one, the ELCA, the liberal arm of the Lutheran Church, God's work, our hands. This idea that we do the work. We are the ones doing it. And then, of course, there's our friends, the Quakers, they who sit in silence in meeting, listening for that still small voice within that calls them into something greater. That is process theology. And of course, our seventh principle, the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, is a direct process theology statement. As a matter of fact, I think if you looked at all of our principles, whether you want to think of them as principles or you want to think of them as values, pretty much all of those are about process theology. And because process theology draws on science and embraces it, I think it's the future of many Christian, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim theologies. It's out there, and it's starting to change things. And that's one of the things I love about the story, the egg, that I told you. It's not that it's actually perfect process theology or anything. It's that it gets us to see the world differently. And process theology does that too. It asks us to see the world and ourselves differently. So you're now at this point, you're like, okay, but what is process theology? Okay, get into that. One of the best ways to understand process theology, or thought, or philosophy, however you want to understand it, is to understand what it isn't. Okay, so we're going to look at the difference between traditional Judeo-Christian theology, really mostly Christian theology, and process theology or philosophy. Okay, and the traditional Judeo-Christian idea is that God is perfect and thus unchangeable, right? Can't change God. In process theology, reality or God is always evolving, and we are co-creators with it. That is, right, God's work, our hands. This is God nudging us forward, using our hands, in a sense. All right, then traditional is that God is omniscient, knows everything, and omnipotent, that is all-powerful, right? Which has always made people go, but what about evil then? If God is all-knowing and all-powerful, what about evil? In process theology, that's not what God is. God is actually what is known as omnipresent. And it's seen in that process theology is panentheism and presentism, and I'll explain what those are. But basically the idea is that God is suffering and feeling with us at all times, whether it's the good or the bad. So presentism, okay, let's talk about, basically there are two types of ideas about time. One is eternalism, and or what's known as block time, that is that you can change the past and you know exactly what's going on in the future. That's where time travel and science fiction comes from. But presentism says only thing that is real is the present, okay? It cannot be changed, and the future is an ocean of possibilities. They use that phrase, an ocean of possibilities, a lot. So, presentism, time is not static, it's always changing, it's always moving forward, even for God. And every choice that we make leads us into the future that we make, right? So every moment is important. So that means that there is no predestination. God doesn't know the future. God only sees all of the possibilities that exist and sort of woos us. They talk about luring, lures us to make the right choice if we could only hear it, okay? And every moment and choice is valuable as it contributes to the process of becoming. Every moment, every choice is valuable. And every person is too, because we are co-creating with God. And as I hate to say it, time travel is not possible in process theology. I know. I know. So panentheism of process theology. So panentheism is that the divine is not only present in all things, but also influencing and being influenced by ongoing events. So what we do influences God. So God is interwoven into the fabric of existence versus pantheism, which everything is God. So if you're a pantheist, you believe that this is God, this microphone is God, I'm God, right? But panentheism says that there is woven into the fabric of all things a sacredness. Does that make sense? A little bit of difference there. It also says that God is an active participant in the world, actively engaging, influencing events, choices, and experiences. But it's never coercion. It's always alluring. It's that moment, that conscience that tells you, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I shouldn't get plastic water bottles anymore. Maybe I should actually get, one of those reusable ones. That's the lure of God in a sense. You can call it God, you can call it your conscience, whatever makes you feel comfortable. The other thing is that also it's transcendent as well. So God in many ways is beyond our understanding, like in our story, The Egg, where he says, you wouldn't really understand, right? To think that we understand God is a basic hubris, I think, of humanity, even though we've been trying for 2 millennia or 3 millennia or so. Let's see, maybe longer than that. All right, God encourages us to grow and loves new ideas and new ways of being. Loves new ways of being. Think about that in our society. God loves when we are diverse and have all the diversity that we are. All right, so getting back to our traditional versus process theology. All right, and again, predestination, that was the traditional way. That's part of the omniscience. God knows everything before and after and ever will be. Nothing we can do to change it. You're saved or you're not saved, all of that. But instead, in process theology, we're interdependent and interconnected with all and with God. Interconnection is absolutely vital in understanding what process theology is. We are part and parcel woven together. And the great metaphor that they use in process theology, you'll hear people talking about, I think even Whitehead used this, was this idea of a record versus a live jazz band. So predestination is like a record, we might say a CD or a DVD these days, but the idea is that everything is set, right? The song you get is the song you get. It's been recorded and you cannot change it, right? But process theology is a bit more like a live jazz band. I nod to Julian for that. This idea is in jazz, so someone might choose a melody and people start going along with it, playing with it, and then they might change the tempo. They might even change the key of it. They might go up a scale but stop toward the very end, and then someone else might take over and start doing a little bit something different. And this is back and forth in this play that goes on. They call it a kind of a dance that is happening, and that's what process theology is. Now, some of us do see us as a seed or an egg that we're constantly evolving with our choices and its humbling way of seeing the world, whereas in the Abrahamic faith tradition, the traditional one, we humans are the ultimate way of being, right? Imago Dei, we are the image of God, as if evolution is done. Does that strike you as just really arrogant to think we're done somehow? So process theology says, no, we are constantly becoming. So if we keep going on here in the Judeo-tradition theology versus process theology, in traditional, particularly Christian theology, free will is an illusion. You think you have free will, but you don't. It's all been written out before. There's the famous joke of the woman who fell down a flight of stairs and she gets up, dusts herself off, and he says, well, glad that's over with, right? Takes a second there, doesn't it? Okay. In process theology, God woos, never wills. There is never coercion. God is just there going, okay, come on, would you mind going this way? Think of it as Martin Luther King's The Arc of the Universe is bending toward justice, right? Trying to help us bend toward that justice. All right. The nature of God is eternal, is an eternal being who created all. immortality, or in the nature of God is love in process theology. That is the absolute core of who or what God is. God is love. It's this creative, generative love that is for everyone, that is luring us, willing us to be in this relationship with one another, to remember that we are all holy and all part of one another. And in traditional revelation is sealed, right? No more, we have this Bible, that's it. That will speak to us till time and come. If you're Muslim, Muhammad was the last prophet and the only prophet. Not so. Revelation is never done in process theology. I always like this phrase. In traditional process theologians, they say immortality as a career after death. I like that. Because what do you think about it? I mean, you know, what happens if in traditional things you go up to heaven and what, you listen to harp music all day? I mean, I'm not entirely sure what it means to die and go to heaven, but you have this career after death as some sort. But in process theology and philosophy, really no, immortality only lives on through our choices. Us as individuals in process theology do not move on, interestingly enough. So this is why a lot of scientists and atheists embrace process theology. So this is not your mama's theology. It's not the God of Abraham, the all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful kind of God. It's the God of Einstein, of Darwin, and of Sagan. And I consider myself a process theologian, not a theologian, but I like process theology. I don't agree with everything in it. So for example, I think that there is something that continues after death, me personally, and maybe that's fanciful thinking, but I think that part of us that is holy goes back to that wholeness that what is God, bringing that experience and influencing the wooing of others, as it were. Kind of like we're all part of this love, and then we just go, that love gets put back into the world. And that's just why we need to choose love in our lives. So here are some of my big takeaways with process theology, and you can decide what your takeaways are. And like, what do I think about this? So first of all, it's very humanistic, right? We, that is, we humanity, have a lot of power. So that mosquito who did bite you maybe this morning or something like that, they are also part of making a decision in the world. They're living their life, but we have way more power than a mosquito, right? We can zap it out of existence, but it means we have more responsibility then as well. We're responsible for our future and listening to that still small voice that's luring us. And that to me is why I love prayer, because prayer is then not about, praising or begging, please let this happen. It's about listening, about trying to listen to where's that lure, where am I being wooed into relationship with others. And that's kind of a radical way of thinking about things these days. The fact that we need to sit and listen, and that's what the Quakers do so well. That's one of their gifts as a religion, is to sit and listen. Where am I being called? And the other is that love is at its core, that we are interconnected with one another. That's what love is. It's when we connect, when we're interrelated with one another. I love this. The story in the egg tells us every time you victimize someone, you were victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. We are the universe, the cosmos, figuring itself out. And we can't do that alone. We need one another. We cannot build the beloved community alone. Each of us has to do our part. And I like this idea that we are like the universe, like that seed that's still becoming. We are all evolving. One of my favorite biblical verses is Micah 6:8. To do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. Notice that it's not behind God, not following God, but with God. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God. I like the humble part of that, personally. And each of us has this vital, important part to play in all of this. This idea that I'm important, that you're important. And how we treat one another is important. It builds a new future, a new way of being. So process theology is a new way of seeing the world, and it's one that I think that can actually save this world. So let's head out to that grand adventure and build a new way. Let us sing.
Let us rise in body or spirit and sing our final hymn.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all the funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are working with Share Ourselves. I just looked them up. Let's see, what do they do? Medical service, dental care, women's health, pediatric care, behavioral health, clinical pharmaceutical services, food pantry, financial assistance, homeless services, health education, case management, and OB programs. And in addition to all of that, upcoming events, Fall Family Service Night and Adopt a Family. So, they are active and fun and getting it done. So let's go ahead and be generous. There are multiple ways in which you can support this church and this organization. You can mail a check. You can go through our website. You can use an app called Vanco Mobile. If you're a roomer, you can also simply use the basket as it is passed. The choice is yours. All the information is on the website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
Perhaps it does not begin. Perhaps it is always. see. The luminous line of the map in the dark, the vigil flame in the house of the heart, the love so searing we can't keep from singing. The luminous line of the map in the dark, the vigil flame in the house of the heart, the love so searing we can't keep from singing, from crying out. Perhaps it does not begin. Perhaps it is always. Perhaps it takes a lifetime to open our eyes, to learn to see. The luminous line of the map in the dark, the vigil flame in the house of the heart, the love so searing we can't keep from singing. The luminous line of the map in the dark, the vigil flame in the house of the heart, the love so searing we can't keep from singing, from crying out. Perhaps this day the light begins. Perhaps this day the light begins. Perhaps this day the light begins in us. Perhaps this day the light begins. We are where the light begins. Perhaps it does not begin. Perhaps it is always.
Please join us in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude.
I think we go back one. Here we go. This is the one we want. Linda Sperry, our chair of our Capital Campaign Committee, is here to tell you about some exciting stuff going on today. I wonder what it is.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jolynn. Appreciate that. Almost every week, I volunteer as a docent at the Long Beach Museum of Art, and many of you have been with me on some of these docent tours. It's near where we live, and currently we have an exhibition called Ordinary People. And it's a very ordinary logo, ordinary colors. However, the people featured in the show are far from being ordinary in what they have accomplished to benefit their communities, primarily in the poorest areas of Los Angeles County. So when I tour with the school kids, what I do is I talk about the ordinary people, but I look at them as extraordinary. Let me see if I've got my little, I hold this up and say, the name of the exhibit may be Ordinary People, but they're actually extraordinary. They're anything but ordinary. So here at Orange Coast, I look out at you, every one of you, and I see extraordinary people. We come from a long line of members and friends who have taken leaps of faith over the years to take bold steps to benefit not only our church, but also those outside our doors. You, my extraordinary friends, and those before us have gotten us to where we are today as a thriving, caring, and loving congregation deciding upon a new sanctuary to leave a legacy that has been 10 years in the making. 10 long years. Right? I think it coincides with her anniversaries. To highlight just a few of the bold moves this congregation has taken, at the very beginning in the 1950s, a UU minister's daughter, Catherine Hoffman, moved to Costa Mesa and started our congregation. Guess where she started it? Not here, in her living room in Costa Mesa. And aren't we glad she did that? Thank you, Catherine, wherever you are. The congregation soon grew, and they made the smart decision to rent out the Costa Mesa American Legion Hall and hold services there. So you've got one location, now we grew up to two. As they outgrew that space, they built the church building on Victoria Street atop the mesa overlooking Victoria and Brookhurst. Quick trivia fact, while construction was taking place, they actually met at the Balboa Bay Club. So now we're at, 4 locations. During the time we were at Victoria Street, and Karen Stoyanov was one of our ministers there, ambitious church leaders, some of whom are sitting here today among you, who are on Zoom, oversaw 3 expansions of that church home. And during that span of time, here are some things that this congregation has done. We cooked and distributed hundreds of meals to HIV and AIDS patients over many years. Many of us cooked and cleaned. Clover and Paul led the charge, and it was a tremendous ministry of this church. We were leaders in the fight for marriage equality. Karen and others, many of you, Beth, others did amazing things then. We protested for women's rights, abortion rights, immigrant rights, and LGBTQ rights. As Nancy gave me this number this morning, we've shared over $87,000 from the offering plate over the last 10 years with community nonprofits, and we continue to do so just as we've done this Sunday. We hosted the Environmental Film Festival for 5 years in support of environmental justice and to raise money for the new sanctuary. And last but not least, we have not only sheltered 89 Ukrainian refugees on our campus while we have patiently waited city approval for our sanctuary project, but we've also had over 10 of us who sponsored 63 Ukrainians to come to the States for the United for Ukraine program, which is pretty amazing. And we have at least 8 homes, including a couple of people I see in the audience, who have hosted or are currently hosting Ukrainian refugees where they live. We have to stop there because there's so much more. I know I haven't included everything, but bottom line, we have a legacy of taking very bold steps in this congregation since we began. And as one of the fundraisers for the sanctuary project over the past 5.5 long years, I want to thank every one of you for joining me in this leap of faith. Your gifts and pledges, and more importantly, your patience have truly been extraordinary. Thank you.
Puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts that we share. I'll be in 1. 1, 2, 3. Gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give
So, of course, now is that time when we honor the important events and people in our lives, and we're invited one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, visitor, into this weekly ritual that we call Joys and Sorrows. And you can be a roomer or a Zoomer as well. So to begin, I'd like to invite Lori Kluge up here. She's one of our Pastoral Care Associate team members, and she'll be here to assist us. So if you've come here today, something holding close to your heart, moments from the last days, weeks, or hours, something that may have struck you at your core, and if you'd like to honor such profound joy or sorrow, you are invited to do so. If you're a roomer, you can come forward and light a candle, and if you'd like to share your joy or sorrow, what you do is you write it out on a slip of paper that the ushers can give you right now, as a matter of fact, and just hand that to me as you come forward. And Zoomers, if you are invited to write your joy or sorrow in the chat, and then I'll light, or actually Lori will light a candle for you. So once the roomers are done lighting their candles, I'll read all those joys and sorrows out loud that were shared with us. And as music is played, I invite you to silently offer a sense of love and hope for all of those in according to your own beliefs. Please come forward. So Barbara S., she says, I am home. Life is slowly returning to normal. I'm back in the choir. Yay. And Laura G., she says, my mother-in-law, Anita, who turned 100 this week, she lit a candle of joy. She said, we celebrated her with cake, flowers, and family, and due to her memory loss, every 10 minutes she was surprised and delighted at her party all over again. Blessings to you, Anita. I love it. That's the way to go, right? Every moment. Oh, look at that. That's so great. All right. Sandy M., she lit a candle of joy because her daughter, Melissa S., she says, my baby girl will be 52 tomorrow. Yes, you have a 52-year-old. I know. Sandy's like, no. Dave Carl said, he says, 1 week late. We actually did mention it last week because I got your email. But he says, last week's flowers were to celebrate the 11th birthday of his grandson, Miles Martin. Definitely a part of my personal process theology, he says. I love it. And Donna M. Said that she lit a candle of joy. She says, I'm so joyful that my neck brace is finally off. Yay. She said, my spine is healing beautifully. Life is good. Yay. And Tatiana H., our wonderful Ukrainian charmer and organizer and everything, she says, she lit a candle of joy for being part of our OCUUC family. She says, I feel lucky to have found our religious home. And we're lucky to have found Tatiana. Jacob, he lit a candle of joy, he said, for the choir and the amazing music we make each week, and grateful to be here. We're grateful too. And Kathleen M. Lit a candle of joy. She says, thank you to Sandy M. for the beautiful gladiolas this morning. These were, they're in honor of Kathleen's father, and it was his favorite flowers, and his birthday would have been tomorrow. So it's a wonderful thing to do. So let's see here. Marcia H., she sent me an email. She said she would like you to light a candle for her, for Linda C. No, she says it's the other Linda. She says, not that Linda, the other Linda. Linda C., for agreeing to be the Reach editor for another year. Yeah. She says, Linda C., you've done a wonderful job in past years. It's been great working with you. And as someone once said, it takes a village. I believe I said that this morning, as a matter of fact. So let's see here. And then we've got here online, let's see here. Phyllis D. would like a candle to honor the life of Barbara Atlas. She was a longtime UU, known to many of us, and she passed away this last Monday. And Ralph Haller also would like a candle lit. He says he grieves the passing of his friend named Tara. Tara was a retired folk singer who spoke in poetry and saw through much of our culture's hypocrisy. Linda C., that Linda C., she says, please light a candle of concern, love, and hope for one of our daughter-in-law who is undergoing breast cancer surgery tomorrow. And Denny Melville says that she would like to have a candle lit of gratitude to everyone who helped put on her husband Bob's celebration of life service. Sarah C. would like a candle lit for fashion design and artwork or craft, because it deserves a candle lit. Let's see, and Marjorie L., she says, a joy to be in community with you this morning and great sorrow at the tremendous suffering being endured by our sisters and brothers, cotton wars being perpetuated everywhere. Amen. And Sarah J., our administrator, she would like to have lit a candle of sorrow because her niece, Jaquetta, passed on Monday of cancer. She also would like a candle lit of hope as her husband's journey with the recent diagnosis of prostate cancer is not moving in the direction we were hoping for. So she's got a lot going on. She says she's having faith. A lot of things going on. So together as a community, let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations, all the hurts and sadness, whether they were spoken or silent. Let our concerns remind us to hope, our joys remind us to be thankful, and our sorrows remind us to connect. And let all these moments remind us that we are not alone. Please join Lori in a spirit of prayer.
Breathe with Me by Matt Albel. Breathe in with me. Breathe in with me the breath of life. Inhale, inspire, inspiration, Ruah, Pneuma, Spiritus, the many names for breath. Breathe with me. Know that with each breath, we take in molecules of air that were breathed by every person that ever lived. Breathe the breath of Jesus, of Moses, of Muhammad, of the Buddha. Breathe with me and know that we are all interdependent, that the spirit of life flows through us all. Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet when we gather together, whether we're in the room or we're on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you're a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't been yet known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat if you're a Zoomer, or if you're a roomer, stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you are from, and we will bring a microphone to you so that our Zoomers can hear you as well. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out, and we will help you get connected.
All right, speaking of connections, we got something going on today. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but before we get there, I did want to point out a couple of things. First of all, it is December, and one of the things that with tradition is this congregation is you're going grocery shopping this week. If you want to pick up a lovely poinsettia and then bring it in over the next few weeks, and when we kind of decorate this all the way up for Christmas Eve with lovely poinsettias as well, so you can do that. The other thing is that we have AED training. This is how to basically keep someone alive. It's a machine that you use to, like, somehow if someone has a heart attack, and it's going to be after church next Sunday. So here's the thing. I would love it if all worship associates could be there, if all ushers could be there, if people in the choir, because you guys are closer, if you guys could be there, that would be awesome. That would be really great. Staff, if you can. It shouldn't take more than 20 minutes for you to be a part of it. And it's really important to do that. Yes, we do have a machine, and it's being updated. So we're getting a new one because that one is getting too old. So that's what's going on, thankfully, to our wonderful congregational nurse who's all over it. So let's see here. All right, we have this big annual meeting. Woohoo! We get to vote on a new potential sanctuary. I just want to leave you with this little quote. Whatever you dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. That's from Goethe. So let us go have a grand adventure and sing our final song. Let's go out.
Bring joy to each heart, let us go out.
So the deal is there's food in the kitchen, there's coffee outside. Get yourselves comfortable and come on back.